I thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Octoloni, following up on Ranking Member McHenry's line of questioning, are you familiar with the legislation that Barney Frank introduced in 2012, directing the CFPB to provide clarity on how debt collectors can, in fact, leave voicemails? The bill's purpose, as officially stated, was to, and I quote, amend the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act to exempt a debt collector from liability when leaving certain voicemail messages for a consumer with respect to a debt, as long as the debt collector follows regulations as prescribed by the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection on the appropriate manner in which to leave such a message and for other purposes. How does that differ from what CFPB proposed for voicemail under Kathy Kraninger's, which many of my Democrat colleagues have opposed? I'm trying to understand the difference.
Yes, thank you. I'm aware of that, and I appreciate you reading back the text. It's really, the Bureau is following the spirit of what that bill said. They made an effort to create what's called the limited content message, which in their view was a statement that is spelled out with great specificity in the rule that collectors would be able to leave on voicemail machines in order to identify themselves without doing what's called third-party disclosure, because the FDCPA prevents debt collectors from disclosing to third parties the existence of the debt. The other part of the conundrum on voicemail messages is that the FDCPA also requires debt collectors to give what's called a mini Miranda notice, which is this message is from a debt collector, and anything you say may be used in the connection with the collection of the
Kathy
debt.
Kraninger, is head of the CFPB right now, is trying to really implement the same type of legislation that Barney Frank offered in 2012, if I understand it properly. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a scenario where a consumer who has fallen into collections could benefit from a phone call or an email communication from a debt collector?
Yes, I mean, the studies show that a meaningful conversation between a collection agency and someone in collections gives the consumer the opportunity to avail themselves of a number of choices. Often they can settle the debt for less than the face value. They might be able, if it's medical debt, to enter into some.
And there's actually a communication going on, and I would assume that communication with the consumer is a good thing in that situation, correct?
It is, yes.
If lenders cannot collect debt, does this have any impact on the ability to extend credits, specifically for financial institutions such as banks and credit unions? Do their safety and soundness requirements make it important for them to be able to collect debt so that they can extend credit?
Yes, I mean, there's a clear relationship between impaired debts and the amount of asset growth that the bank regulatory agencies will allow institutions to.
How does the debt collection process impact both smaller and larger businesses throughout the country and the larger economy?
So, I mean, particularly with small businesses, a lot of the times the reason that they hire a debt collector is because they're professionals in trades, auto mechanics, dentists, so on, and they just don't have the infrastructure in order to collect on their own accounts. And these may be small accounts, but together they equal $40,000, $50,000, which is a lot for an auto mechanic over the course of a year.
And I hope I pronounced this correctly. Miss, is it Jimenez?
Jimenez.
Jimenez. Okay. I saw you nodding your head during the Ranking Member McHenry's line of questioning. Do you agree with Ms. Octoloni's assessment, and do you see the need for modernization in this space, ma'am?
I think we have a conundrum, and I think it's not easy to solve. The problem is we want to protect, and the FDCPA protects, consumer privacy and the avoidance of disclosure of a debt to a third party. And voicemails can be a private thing, but they can also be a public thing, and same with text messages. We also have a problem with really the data and the information that the debt collector has about the consumer and whether that's correct.
But the collector must follow regulations prescribed by the Bureau, if I understand things
Sure.
correctly. Those can be laid out, correct?
Sure. I mean, but right now.
There's an opportunity for modernization so that we can actually communicate.
I don't think modernization, standardization, consistency, I think that is good for everybody.
Wonderful.
The
Great.
question
Thank
is
you. I
the
yield back.
details.